Deadline already. On Monday, there are hearings in front of the House Intelligence Committee. One of the members who will be part of those hearings is Democratic Congressman Mike Quigley of Illinois. Thanks so much for being with us, Congressman.
Good morning.
So we've been hearing from Sheldon Whitehouse, Democratic Senator from Rhode Island, who is in the Senate and sits on the Judiciary Committee. And he says that he thinks he might get a comment himself from the FBI director today about whether there is a criminal investigation into these alleged contacts between Trump associates and the Russians. He thinks he'll get confirmation of that on his side. Do you already know the answer to that in the Intelligence Committee?
Well, I think the Intelligence Committee can answer that, but, we've been briefed on that in confidential settings. So I'll leave that to Mr. Comey to decide whether he's going to tell anybody else. The fact is the American public needs to know. That information needs to come from the director himself.
So, but just to be clear, so there is an answer and you have it, you just can't tell us, which is okay. I mean, we don't want you to reveal classified information.
I respect the director's decision on what he's going to brief to this committee. It is very unusual for the director to talk to the public about the subject of investigations or whether there's an investigation at all. Look, I think the American public deserves to know this. I just respect the confidentiality of our briefings.
Good. Fair point. Your committee's asked the Justice Department now for evidence of President Trump's claims that he was wiretapped by former President Obama. They missed the deadline already for that. It's 9:31 in the East as of right now. Have you yet received the evidence?
We haven't received any evidence. I don't expect we'll receive any evidence. I don't think any evidence exists. They have it now until Monday. What's disturbing here is the Director of National Intelligence has refuted this. The FBI director has asked the Justice Department to refute this. I don't know what's more disturbing, the president perhaps lying to the American public or actually believing anything he says at this point.
So if
it's dangerous, it's unprecedented.
Look, maybe they have evidence. Sean Spicer yesterday said that they are going to turn over evidence, or he is highly confident they will turn over evidence. You don't seem as highly confident.
Well, look, I've listened to Mr. Spicer, Ms. Conway's remarks over the last several days, and they seem to be backtracking. They don't seem to have clear understanding. If they had the evidence, it would have been beyond comprehension. They wouldn't have released it while they made the accusation, or at least the first deadline. We look forward to Monday to see what they're saying. But at this point in time, it is honestly a load of gibberish. I'm reminded of Lewis Carroll's poem, The Jabberwocky, right? And when we read it, we don't understand it. All we know is that something died. I feel the same way about the rantings in the White House. I don't understand it, but I know something is dying, and that's the understanding that truth matters to the American public.
You've got a public hearing on Monday where you got a lot of people coming before your committee, including the FBI Director James Comey. Much of this will be public. In public, what is the one question you want answered?
Oh, I think there's any number of questions. I think the most important question on the top of my head we could ask, are we going to get the full cooperation from the FBI and the intelligence community, and for that matter, the White House, investigating whether the Russian government was hacking and had cooperation? What did they do? What were their active measures involved with the democratic process here in the United States? Was there collusion? The question is, are we going to get cooperation from the White House? Are we going to get cooperation to follow the facts wherever they go so the American public knows exactly what took place?
Well, are you getting cooperation from the FBI at least?
Oh, it's at the initial stages of the investigation. I think what the committee is going to need is the resources to investigate this, the cooperation it needs, subpoena power. We're going to need help from the Republicans on the intelligence committees. And unfortunately, we're going to need help from the White House at a time when it appears more that they're likely to obstruct such an investigation.
So overnight, there was an interesting development. A lot of people watched. We got a tiny bit of information about Donald Trump's taxes. 2005, he made more than $150 million, apparently paid more than $30 million in taxes. Does this answer some of the questions you and your Democratic colleagues have had about his tax returns, and what more do you still want to know?
Look, I think the question here is, when the president was asked about these sort of things and Russian involvement, here's a good question. You didn't invest in Russia. Did Russia invest in Trump? That's what the American public deserves to know. because if you're looking at an investigation here and you're asking yourself, why such an incredible close tie to Putin and Russia? Why are you talking about lifting sanctions involving Ukraine? What are the possible motivations? The American public deserves to know. If there is a glimmer of possibility that there's a conflict of interest here, that you've been compromised, cooperate, let us know what's taken place. The tax returns are the obvious first question.
And we only did get 2 pages of 1 year. But I do have to ask you, because you raised a lot of questions there and you are on the Intelligence Committee, have you seen any evidence of those questions you've asked, that his positions on Ukraine aren't just a policy position? People are allowed to have policy positions without being paid off by the Russians, if that's the insinuation you're making. I mean, do you have any evidence?
I think it's a fair question.
You have any evidence that the answer is yes?
I think what we're talking about here is I haven't prejudged one way or another. I'm just saying that's a key part of the evidence to help us understand what's taken place. This is the very early stages of this investigation. I will tell you it's unfair for me to prejudge in any way where I think this is going to go. What I'm saying is, if you are taking away a key piece of evidence in that investigation, those questions are going to remain out there unanswered for the American public.
Democratic Congressman Mike Quigley of Illinois with the Jabberwocky reference during this interview. I always thank you for bringing up Lewis Carroll. Thanks so much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, President Trump's travel